Hello. How are you doing today? Chelsea here to share with you the 10th episode of Multifaceted, which is really exciting for me. It's exciting to be able to get to this number. It's a milestone in progress, and just a reminder for those of you that are on a path where you're working towards something to celebrate the milestones. So just right here and now, before we continue on with the topic for today, just wanted to celebrate that. Just acknowledge episode 10. And this also marks the start of a new 4-week set of topics. We're going to be talking about relationships this month. So this is the first one. This is part 1. We're going to be talking about the most important relationship that you'll ever have. And I'm really excited about this. This is a really powerful conversation, and so much good can come out of all of us working and strengthening on this very important thing. So I'm going to get into this in a moment. Just first of all, welcoming you to Multifaceted. Multifaceted is my regular live series, which was born really out of a desire for me to step into an ability to share and communicate the work that I do, but also the way that I view us as humans, as multi-dimensional beings, all of the many incredible layers to who we are and to how we operate, how we interrelate with others. And so it started 10 weeks ago with a desire to just really start to open up this conversation and to share. And from looking at this perspective of this work being very multifaceted, this is something that is so important to me when I work with a client, that we start where we are. We can take a look at a really important goal. We can look at a desire. Often, people will come to me with a desire to accomplish something, achieve something, get somewhere. And then also at the same time, there's a desire to release certain things that feel like they're holding them back. There's a desire to let go of or to overcome a hurdle of some sort that seems to be getting in the way. And so this whole process of helping support a person from that stage of discomfort and unhappiness and this looking ahead at this future visioning towards what life could be like is the whole process. And that is not a linear path. It's not always a direct path. And it's never going to be the same path from one person to another. The whole process itself is multi-dimensional. So we're working on all of these layers of who we are. We're looking at releasing trauma. We're looking at blocks and things that might hold us back, or beliefs that are keeping us stuck to where we are. We're working on the layers of our physical abilities, our emotional, our mental, our spiritual potentials, all of the things that we have within us for us to be able to step into the best possible version of ourselves. So that's what Multifaceted is really all about, and that's what this whole conversation on these live streams is all about. And so this month we're talking about relationships, and we're going to be talking about the most important relationship that you will ever have. And I think lots of us could guess what that is. There might be a little bit of a debate on that, because there's really 2 very important relationships that you can have, but to me they're very interrelated and intertwined. But this is a really important conversation as well, because so many of us look at our relationships with other people first. Our relationships from our early lives with our family of origin to, when we get to our teens, it's our relationship with our peer group, our friends, our teachers, our coaches, the people that are in our lives, our extended family. And one thing that I don't know that many of us or all of us are taught from a really early age is that the most important relationship that you'll ever have is with yourself. And this is something that I want to explore today and chat about, because I think it's something that we can often miss. And it's something that I didn't know for a very, very long time. And part of why I love talking about relationships so much is because I've kind of taken it upon myself to become a student of relationships, partly just because of all of the challenging relationships that I've had throughout my life, all of the ways that relationships have imploded in my life. And of course, these are relationships with other people. But I think that that missing piece, that lack of awareness and clarity and consciousness, that the most important relationship that I had, even from an early age, was with myself. And because I didn't get that piece, that actually can set in motion a whole series of challenges in relationships if we don't get that piece. So this is really important, to come back, circle back, and really hold this awareness. And when I spoke at the beginning that there might be a bit of a debate on what the most important relationship that you'll ever have is, I think some people would say your relationship to God, your relationship to a higher power, but I really see those as intertwined. Because for you to be able to really have a powerful relationship on a spiritual level with your creator, you kind of have to have a powerful relationship with yourself as well. It's very important for all of that to just kind of get worked out, right? So as I mentioned, this is something that for so many of us is just a big gap that we don't see. It's something that we can't see. It might be a blind spot. It might be something that we just never thought about. And in the early stages of me starting to really understand this, of really starting to acknowledge and admit that relationships had been a struggle for me for most of my life, including most of my adult life as well, there was an incredible woman that I met along this path, and she is the one who really, opened my eyes to hypnotherapy and all of the incredible gifts within that. It's a powerful tool for really helping to shift our relationships. And right from the beginning, this hypnotherapist, she's a friend of mine. She's the one who, pointed me in the direction towards HMI, which is where I had been studying hypnotherapy as well. Her name is Levine. And I studied with her as I was working with her and learned so many incredible things. And one thing that she shared with me early on in the training, this is just really all about improving your relationship with yourself, was this quote. It's a really powerful quote. And when I first heard it, it just really took my breath away. I mean, it's something that when it really hits you, when it really lands, it's something that, I almost felt a little bit sad when I heard it, because while it's true, it's just really kind of shocking and stunning to really sit with it and think about it. So I'm going to read it to you. And it's a quote by Joe Kuder. And it says, "Of all of the people you will know in a lifetime, you are the only one you will never leave or lose. To the question of your life, you are the only answer. To the problems of your life, you are the only solution." So it's that part about that you are the only one who will never leave and that you can never lose. And it is a really kind of eye-opening truth. We hold so tightly to all of the relationships in our lives, all of the important people in our lives, but there is a truth that at some point, as we all know, that we're not going to be here anymore. And same goes with all of the people in our lives. And, hopefully we'll have beautiful, long lives, and this won't happen until we're, at the end of our life. But the truth of the matter is that it's the same thing. We're never going to leave ourselves. We can be in a relationship that we can think is rock solid and powerful. There's so many people that have gone through this. And then all of a sudden, the other person wants to leave. The other person has decided that this relationship isn't for them. So this really highlights the fact that this is our relationship with ourselves is the most important relationship that you'll ever have. And by strengthening it, by getting so solid in your relationship with yourself, by healing anything that impacts your relationship with yourself, any areas where you judge yourself, you're hard on yourself, you belittle yourself, you deprive yourself, by really coming to terms with that and looking at, what's getting in the way of that, what caused that, where that can be healed. Sorry, I have something in my eye. Anyways, hopefully it'll just go away. I might have to pause and come back. I'm gonna just try to blink it away. I'll give it a second. I think I got it. So it just really highlights and helps us be so aware of where the healing work needs to be done. So if you ask yourself that question, am I my own biggest cheerleader? Am I my own best friend? Am I the person who backs myself, who sees myself as an incredible person, no matter what, no matter what's happened in my life, no matter what I've done, just really has that compassion and that forgiveness and that deep love for self. And again, this is something that we can get, and I thought I had it for a really, really long time. And we can learn it, and we can think that we're really solid in it, and then we can hit a whole new level of awareness. So it's something that we just are always working on as well. Just like, you hear about long-term solid relationships, long-term partnerships. It takes effort. It takes really, being willing to look at the hard stuff. It takes a willingness to be able to go through challenges, have, the difficult conversations, and, not shy away from the things that might be uncomfortable. So it's something that we also need to do with ourselves. And if we are in a relationship and our relationship is, not going well, the most important thing first, before we start to try to fix what's going on within the partnership, is for both of the people to go inward. And of course, we can only choose that for ourselves as well. I mean, I can be on here, I can be talking about this, but it's a personal choice. It's something that, you can only really choose to do for yourself. But because you are the only person that you'll never lose and who will never leave, it seems like a pretty important thing to do. And the side benefit of all of that is that your other relationships will improve. Your relationships with your children, the way that people see you, the way that people experience you, for you to actually be able to embody this inner strength and this self-love that isn't just about doing nice things or buying nice things for yourself. It's about how you show up for yourself when things go wrong, when you make a mistake, when you uncover something about yourself that you're not proud of, something that maybe you were having a hard time looking at, you didn't want to admit or acknowledge, or when, maybe we're reminded of something about our past, something that we did years ago that maybe hurt another person. So it's in those moments that this really matters. It's how you show up for yourself in the really challenging moments. And quite often, if we don't have a strong relationship with ourselves, those are the moments where that relationship is really tested. And so it's really about meeting yourself where you're at right now. No matter what's going on in your life, starting to notice how you talk to yourself, how you talk about yourself. And this was a really big one for me, because I thought I was doing really good. And then a good friend pointed out some things that I was saying about myself that I wasn't even conscious of. And it created a whole new level of shift for me in my life, and I'm very grateful for that. So sometimes we need another person to help us see things. It's not always possible for us to be able to see it, but we need to take that message. We need to, if someone points out to us that we're not speaking very kindly of ourselves, because sometimes it can also be very subconscious that we do it. It's so important. That's such a gift when that happens, when someone is able to, just speak really truly to us, really be real about what's going on and what they're seeing, so that we can actually, take that message and then shift even deeper into more self-love and to build that relationship with ourselves even more. And there are certain things that we may be holding against ourselves. We may have held it against ourselves for years. There may be experiences that were passed down through generations, ways of being in relationships that, we learned and that we may continue to perpetuate with other people, but also with ourselves. So this is something to also really shine a light on. Last month we talked about self-awareness. So it's taking that self-awareness and really upping it, so that we're just so conscious of what's going on internally. And then again, noticing, you can get yourself to a place where, you've done a lot of work. Sometimes we need support. As I mentioned, I worked with my mentor, Abby, for, I think we did about 12 weeks. And the main reason I came to her was I was very clear, and we're going to be talking about this in future weeks on this whole relationship conversation. I was very clear that I had been attracting toxic relationship patterns. That if I was to go back and look at previous relationships that I was in, they were ones that even from the beginning, they weren't healthy, but there was this part of me that either felt like that was all that I deserved, or that was okay, or that it was normal. And often what happens when we're doing that, of course, is we're fulfilling or completing or trying to complete some sort of cycle within our life, that may go back to our childhood. It's hard to know for sure, but that's part of what was going on for me. But it was the external relationships that prompted me to actually seek support and to reach out to someone to help me clear it. I didn't do it for myself, but what I discovered through the whole process was that this is the underlying root cause of what's going on. It's not about the other people. It's about how we're being and who we are for ourselves that is really attracting one person over another. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking a little bit more about healing toxic relationship patterns in future weeks, but it all starts with us. But because of how we are, it's a lot less likely that we're going to seek out support just because we think that there's something going on within us. It's usually something like something louder, whether it's a divorce or a separation, or maybe a string of difficult relationships, or, difficulty finding a lifelong partner, finding that we're never really able to have a long-term relationship. So those are the things that can often, there may be more symptoms, and that's often how we are with our health in general. We're going to go and get support when the symptoms get really uncomfortable, even though the root cause is something that it's harder to notice. We're not conscious to it. So just notice that there might be other things, other symptoms within your relationships that can indicate that your relationship with yourself is in need of some support and some healing and some growth. And again, how do we do that? It's not a simple answer necessarily. It's often just really starting to look at where we're at right now, taking stock of what the current experience is in our relationship with ourselves. And a big signal of it can be if we struggle with being alone, if we have a hard time just being by ourselves, just enjoying a quiet moment, nobody else around. If we struggle with that, that's a pretty good sign that there might be something going on as well. There might be some healing, because when you can get into a really beautiful relationship with yourself, being alone is amazing. It's an incredible experience, because then you get to really enjoy yourself, you know, and there's so many wonderful people around us, so many beautiful relationships that we can experience, but to be able to be by yourself and to be able to enjoy some alone time is where you're going to actually start to improve your relationship with yourself. If you have the opportunity to be single, to be on your own, to actually take yourself out on dates, you know, to take yourself out and do things that you enjoy, or spend time alone at home, you know, whatever it is that you need to do, but just really start to look at what it is that you would love to do for yourself, what it is that you would love that makes you happy. And a lot of us, and this is something that I experienced as well, that we can actually get to that place, and this is often why being alone can be really uncomfortable for us, is that we don't know what we like. If we ignored ourselves for so long, and again, this is a big part of my story, if we ignored our own needs for a really long time, if we followed a life path because it was something that we felt like, or we thought we were supposed to be doing, it was what everyone does, and somehow we lost ourselves along the way and we ignored our own needs, then this is something that, again, it's a signal to start to take a look at where this relationship can be repaired, where it can be healed, and where it can be strengthened. And working on this one thing, working on this one very important relationship, the most important relationship that you'll ever have, is the most important work you'll probably ever do. And I've lived and I've experienced the effects of not doing this work. I know what a life looks like when we don't have a healthy relationship with ourselves. It means attracting unhealthy relationships. It means making choices that aren't for our highest good. It can mean overgiving. It can mean a feeling like we have to overextend ourselves to measure up. It can mean that we ignore warning signs, red flags, our own needs over the needs of another person. And it can mean that we ignore our true path, our true calling, our desires. You know, we can ignore the things that are important. We can get so far removed from those things that we can forget what they are. And, you know, one of the things that also, just having been a mom, being a mom twice, you know, there's this whole interesting process that happens when we become moms. You know, naturally, because we're now being given this life that we're here to be responsible for, we lose ourselves, and this is part of the process. And I think it's a really important one, because it also initiates a deeper pull for us to come back to ourselves as our children get older. But we can also really experience this whole process of losing ourselves completely. And some of us mamas can lose ourselves for years, you know, and again, having been a mom twice around, we all know that as soon as they reach about age 3 or age 4, you know, they start getting more and more independent, that just incrementally we have a little bit more and more freedom. so that we can start to, we can start doing it even when they're tiny little babies, but they need us so much more. But motherhood is a really important trigger for us to also deepen our relationship with ourselves, partly just because we do naturally, for good reason, lose our relationship with ourselves for a little while. But then we also have these tiny little people that are watching us all the time, learning from us, experiencing life through our actions. So even more important to model this and to teach them that their most important relationship is with themselves from such an early age. And oh my goodness, do I ever wish I knew that from a very early age. I think the more children that are born into this world that realize that and understand and learn that that's actually something that we all owe to ourselves to be doing, and to not feel guilty about it. To know that this is part of being a healthy human being, to honor ourselves, to have boundaries for ourselves, to have standards for ourselves from an early age, and to actually start building and developing a healthy relationship with themselves right from the beginning. So it's a very important and beautiful and incredible message. And if this is something that you are feeling like you need a little bit of support on, just know that there's so much out there that can be done. This is something that I love to help support my clients with. And I would love to talk to you about it. If it is something that you need a little bit of support with, you can reach out to me and we can set up a free chat strategy session to take a look at where you're at right now and where you're wanting to go and how we can start to make the moves to get you there. And of course, no matter what it is that you're struggling with, or whatever it is that you want for your life, strengthening your relationship with yourself, the most important relationship you'll ever be in, will always give you more strength, more energy, more power towards whatever it is. If you have a strong relationship with yourself, then you really do believe in yourself and believe that you can accomplish anything. So it is the root of so many other things. So if you are interested, if you'd like to book in for a strategy session, I will put the link on this post, so you can go ahead and do that. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Sending you lots of love, and a reminder for you to take a look at your most important relationship that you'll ever be in, your relationship with yourself, and see what you might need to do, what you can do today to help strengthen that relationship. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the love. I'll be back here next week, and we will be talking about toxic relationship patterns, which of course I touched on a little bit today, and I'm very excited to talk about that one too. So I will see you again here, and thank you so much. Lots of love.